Hello, we're back again.
Yes,
So
we
we've
are.
switched seats,
We
and in
absolutely
this
have.
case, we're gonna switch topics a little bit too.
I have all of your knowledge in my brain now, and I feel super awesome.
So I want to learn a little bit more about chatbots.
Cool. Yes. So, let's talk about chatbots.
Yeah, let's talk
So
about
I've
chatbots.
logged into my IBM Cloud instance, and you explained some of this, so we won't go over all of this again. But essentially, if you have never done this before with a chat, like creating a chatbot on IBM Cloud, you have to create a new service, a new Watson Assistant service for yourself.
Okay.
So we are at Think, and we have a lovely chatbot on our app as well.
Okay.
And I'm sure, like I'm sure
So
people know.
can we create an instance of that chatbot?
You can create your own chatbot.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna
Um,
build from scratch.
We're gonna build from scratch.
That's really cool.
We'll go through
Right from the catalog.
Right from the catalog.
Okay.
Yes. So that's a good point. I'll show the catalog real quick here, and I want to confirm I'm sharing my screen. You can see that.
We can.
Okay,
Yes, we
perfect. So once I go into catalog, I can either type in assistant here, which should bring up. That is not how you spell assistant. All right, so that's Watson Assistant, and essentially you click on it. As with what when we looked at Node-RED, Watson Assistant also has a light tier, so it's completely free to use.
All right. So I don't need to put my credit card in. Just
Absolutely
they're
not.
available.
That is correct.
Neat.
So once I go in here, I already have one created, so I'll not create another one.
Mhm.
But essentially, you click on the light tier and say create. Give it a meaningful name. I picked the one that was available, which is probably not a good practice, but
Okay.
developers. So I'll go back. So once you have created that, it should take you to the main homepage of Watson Assistant.
Okay.
But since I already have one, I'll have to go back to my dashboard and launch the one I created before from there. So let's do that. So I'll go into my service list. I don't have a lot here. So Watson Assistant UU, that's the one I created before, so I'll launch that.
Okay.
And we'll talk about a couple of things of what it takes to create a conversation or a dialogue on Watson Assistant.
Okay.
So what are the different components of a chatbot? All right, so the next thing I do is launch tool, and it takes me to the Watson Assistant tooling itself.
So this is sort of the ability to create the whole conversational flow back and forth.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll create what are called skills. So
Okay.
we'll create a skill, and then we'll add it to an assistant, which can then be deployed on different platforms.
Huh.
So think of your assistant can obviously have multiple skills.
Right.
So if you think of you're running a restaurant, that's what we'll do today. So you're running a restaurant, you want to build a bot that takes orders.
Okay.
Okay?
So
what are the different things you want to ask people when taking that order?
would you like fries with that?
Perfect. So some sort of menu choice.
Okay, menu
Right. You
choices.
may want to ask them, is it a takeout, a sit-in?
Okay.
What time are you coming in? How many seats should I keep for you?
Oh, so we're gonna do a reservation service.
We are going to build that
That's
right
fun.
now. All right. So like I said, there are skills and then there are assistants. So for us, the first step would be to actually build a skill.
Okay.
But before I go there, even on the home page, the Watson Assistant team has put up, and this page changes as new versions come out.
Okay.
They have put up different videos on how to get started, how to use some of the more intermediate and advanced features of Watson Assistant.
So there's a whole portal here then to help you guide you through this creation of a chatbot.
Yes, you have plenty of help here to get started.
Do you mention that we've got a bot exchange, asset exchange?
I did not mention that. That's really good. I don't have the URL open right now, but if you Google Chatbot Exchange, those are bots that people have built and shared with everybody else. So
Okay.
so it's not only is it a place to go learn about how to build chatbots, but you can actually download them, import them into Watson Assistant as JSON files,
Very
and
cool.
build
So
new
open
skills.
source.
It's absolutely open
Oh,
source.
so
yes.
I don't even have to start from scratch. I can start from a project that's already built some of these common scenarios.
Yes, absolutely. They
Very
are
cool.
simply JSON files that
Mhm.
you can import. So that's a good place to start.
Okay.
But
All right, but let's build it from
we'll do one
scratch,
from
'cause
scratch
I
because that's
like-
more exciting.
This is this is awesome.
That is more exciting. When people start off building chatbots for the first time ever, and we'll show how to test it. It's exciting that I said something and it returned something back to me.
Really?
Somebody's talking to
So
me.
it does natural language understanding, natural
Yes.
language classifier.
Yes.
It does a whole set of text analytics.
All of that is built in, and the neat thing is, I don't have to have a in-depth understanding of machine learning or how those things work
Perfect.
in order to use this.
So we're not deep in the weeds of NLU and NLC. It's all
It's sort of
abstracted a
taken care
level.
of. That being said,
Yeah.
you can call out to external NLU, classifier services on Watson, or Watson services on IBM Cloud to help you.
Okay. So I could build custom capabilities too?
So Watson Assistant tooling will give you a set of capabilities. You can get some additional help from outside.
Cool.
An example I've seen is where it's very domain specific. So you know,
Like
for the
doctor
medical
or
system or something,
insurances,
that
yeah.
language, instead of you may have external resources that already understand that. So you may have natural language models, and you can bring that into or call out to them. And then integrate that with the Watson tooling.
So
versus-
developer lingo, we can jump right into it.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do it. So okay, so we'll create a new skill. You see, I have something here called support ticket.
Okay.
And that's a lab we are running, I think. But let's create a new one. So say create new, and here is where I can create a new skill from scratch. I can use a sample skill which Watson Assistant comes with, and that has some of the more intermediate features like digressions, handlers. So it'll let me learn by example.
Okay.
Or like I said, you can go to the asset exchange, model asset exchange,
And import right from here.
import
Awesome.
JSON file right from here. So let's call this.
'Cause I always take the easy path.
Let's call it book reservation. And we'll keep it really simple because people are getting started here. So you give it a name, you say create, and it brings you inside the tooling itself. Now there are two sort of tabs on the left here. The first one is my building, so that's where I build stuff.
Okay.
And the second one is my metrics. So once I've deployed my skill in an assistant, I want to see how it's doing. I want to improve it over time. I want to catch bugs. So I can do all of that in there.
Okay.
So a couple of things we need to understand first before we build our bot. So we have something called intents, and that's what we were talking about before. So in our case, what we'll do is our intent would be, can I book a how do you say? Can I book a time in your restaurant?
Right.
Right. So that's our intent. You want to go there to eat. That's my intention as a user. Entities is what information I need to fulfill that intent. So as we talked before, what do you need? So what does the bot need to know? Bot needs to know when I'll be there, how many people in my party, right? Things like that.
Okay.
What's on the menu? If I'm doing a takeout, I mean the actual dishes.
Okay.
And then everything comes together in the dialogue. So let's look at that first. So I click on dialogue, and there is no dialogue to begin with. I'll click on create. So here's our, we talked about flow programming before, so here's another flow chart.
Okay.
The first node is the welcome node, and welcome node sort of gets triggered when the chatbot fires initially.
Starts up.
It starts up, there's nothing, nobody's asked anything yet. You still want to welcome the user.
Okay.
And more importantly, I think you need to tell them what all is possible and set
So
some
set the boundaries of what this chatbot does.
expectations.
It's, okay. It's
Yes.
not the general, general AI.
One of the developers at the office was building something, and the chatbot, the first thing it said was, ask me anything. And that's what I did. And it was a horrible experience. You need to set that expectations up front. All right, so the next thing I want to mention real quick, on the top right here, there's a try it panel. And that's how you try your bot while you're building it.
All right. So really very interactive then.
It's very interactive. It's also iterative.
Okay.
So you build it, you test it, you build it, you test it.
Right.
You can deploy it and send a link out to somebody else to test as well.
Okay.
And we'll look at that in a second. So we haven't done anything yet. So whatever I put in here, it'll fall down to this anything else node. And anything else, literally, it's a catch-all. And generally, what you want to do is you want to say to the user, give them more help. Guide them on what all they can ask in that anything else node.
Right.
Because it's very frustrating. I'm sure you have experienced that
sure.
too. It's very
You're like,
frustrating
okay,
to actually
I
get
didn't
into
ask
a
the
position.
question right. Let me
Yes.
try again.
Yes. Am I dumb? No, you're not. You have to build that in the bot. All right. So let's go to intents and build our first intent, which is I want to eat. Sure. Keep it simple. All right. So I need a little bit of help here. So we have to name the intent something. So I'll say user booking,
Okay.
and we can add a commentary. So when this JSON gets exported to somebody else, they can see what this intent is for. So user wants to book a spot or book a table. All right, so how this works is for every intent, you give it examples of what that intent could look like. And that's to teach Watson. So it can then take those examples and learn what are the different ways the user can ask to book a table.
So I want a table. I'd like a table.
I want a table. Throw a couple more.
Can I reserve a table?
I'm hungry.
Okay.
I don't know if people. I say that all
Maybe,
the time. I call
yeah.
the restaurant and say I'm
Hungry,
hungry.
but get me in. Squeeze me in.
Squeeze me in. Oops. Okay, let's do one more, just to make it 5.
Think of one.
Do you have a space or
space
something,
available.
right? So let's leave it at that.
Okay.
And as you can see on the right here, Watson is training. So that's where all the machine learning and natural language processing classification, all of that is happening. Not the classification, but the training is happening behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
And that's where bulk of work is being done. So, all right. So while that trains, let's go ahead and build our entity. So remember, intent is what do you want to do? Entity is how do you fulfill it? Okay. What does the bot need to know to get through that?
So time and...
Yes.
Okay.
To help with that, Watson Assistant has something called system entities.
Oh.
So it's got some built-in entities, and that's also, it uses natural language processing a bit here. I'll give you an example. For example, if let's say, so what time would you like to come in? I'll turn that on. So now that sys_time entity is available to me in my bot.
So I don't have to build all those Q&A.
No, and actually it goes one step further. If I ask the bot, or if the bot asks me what time do you want to come in, I say in about 2 hours. It understands that and interprets that.
Oh, that's so clever.
Right. So that
awesome.
logic, as developers, we know how that working with times and dates is.
Sure.
It kind of takes care of that.
Are you on GMT?
-8. All right. So the next thing is the date. So we'll get the date as well. I just want to show. I'll get the location, and we may not use it. Number of people in your party, so we'll get sys number in. Okay. So these are the system entities. I don't have to write any of these. So, but we do need to write one. So let's say, what dish do you want? We need to create a menu.
Okay.
So let's do that. Let's
like
add an entity, and I'll call it dish. Now, the thing is, before we go any further, when you see this @ sign, that means we're referring to an entity.
Okay.
When you see a hash sign, that's an intent.
Okay.
When you see a $sign, that's a variable. That's a context variable that's been stored during my conversation that I can use later on. And the use case there is if I've asked the user something, I don't want to forget that.
Okay.
That's very frustrating if the user has to tell me 5
So the context,
times.
I'm building a little pseudo language here now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the context, in fact, if you go out to your try it panel, there is a manage context link. And if you click on that, it'll show you what all has been stored as context variables in that conversation context. Like in that, your
The session.
the session. Perfect.
the
Thank you
session
so
context.
much. Yes, the session. Okay, so let's fill this in. So we'll keep it really simple. Our restaurant offers rice. Very important.
Okay.
And then what else do we offer? Pizza. And then we order burger. Oh, I misspelled pizza. That's okay. Let's correct it.
Oh, so you can edit right there.
You can edit right there. And then we are so cool. We also do burgers.
Okay.
Would you ever go to this restaurant?
I would, because that's
that's
what I eat. Burgers and
All right.
pizza, and occasionally, like, oh boy, a salad. That's what I'm saying.
Perfect. Let's go do one more salad.
Yeah.
And then we'll do drink, okay? I want to show you something. So with drink, what we can do is, so there are various ways of asking for drink. I want Coke, I want water, all of those are drinks. So what this thing does is the tooling provides you a show recommendations button, which is pretty cool, and it'll tell you what different ways you can order a drink.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
That is kind of cool.
So I drink, let's say, and
so I'm a beer drinker. That's
beer
mine.
drinker.
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can say add selected, and it brings you the next step. So if you know, this is a very tiny example, but
Yeah.
for other words,
You
it's,
could
it's amazing what you can
So
use
it's
from
making
here.
recommendations based on just a word I provided.
Just a word you provided. Yes.
That's super.
Yes. All right. So we'll get out of this. So let's add value. So you see what it did here. It added drink, but it added synonyms
Says
for drinks and beer. And how did
So I could ask, can I have an ale? Do you have?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a pilsner?
So all of those are
stouts?
categorized as a drink entity, but then they get tagged
Tagged.
as these different sub-entities.
Oh, super cool.
So you can make decisions in your dialogue based on what the user wants. All right, so let's go back. So what have we done so far? We have created an intent that I want to order something. We have used a bunch of system entities.
Mhm.
We have created a new entity called dish. Let's use all of that in the dialogue now.
Okay.
Okay, so what you can do here is every node has the three menu button, and that lets you do things with that node. So we'll add another new node underneath the welcome node. We will name this node user booking or user book, something like booking. Naming is hard, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Hey, variables are. If you pick a good variable name, it actually is very helpful.
If it's very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure I do that from now on. Okay, and as I was saying before, your dialog nodes can be triggered or conditioned on intents, entities, or context variables. So in this case, when the user asks for an intent of ordering or booking a table,
Mhm.
we want to come into this node. And keep it really simple right now. You say, great. We gotcha. Let's keep it like this for now.
Okay.
And we'll go out and test it because we have done some work. It's good to test, be iterative. So how can I help you? And I'll say I want to book a table. There you
Okay.
go. So now
So-
it took me to my node that got fired because it recognized a user booking intent.
All right.
All right, so this is, we haven't done much yet, but I wanted to show you how to get it working real
Okay.
quick. Do you have questions?
So what happens if I ask it, is the sky blue?
Okay, let's do that. So,
So-
it's not able to match that to my one and only intent,
Right.
and it falls down to anything else.
Okay, so now it's going to say, hey, you don't understand, jump back, and
I haven't
this
put that
chatbot
in.
is perfect.
Right, I haven't put
All
that
right,
in.
So,
The
so
other-
now we at least are building a domain-specific chatbot
Yes.
guide the user back into the correct rails.
Exactly. So in here, in anything else, I can instead of saying I didn't understand, keeping it simplistic. I can actually say I didn't understand. These are the things I can do right now,
Right.
and then guide the user accordingly.
Okay.
The other cool thing is you see these little maps, like the placeholder stuff.
Yeah.
The location thing. So when you click on that, it takes you to the node that was called. So you can imagine this is a very simple bot with a simple dialogue, but you can get into hundreds of nodes and entities, and so this is very helpful when you're testing it. All right, so let's do one last thing. In my node, I would like to now capture that information that the user wants to enter, or that I need to fulfill this intent. So I'll say customize, and we have this concept of slots. And as the name suggests, it's to gather information and put it away
Okay.
into our context variables. And I'll say prompt for everything. That's pretty neat as well. Instead of, if the user is giving me 2 pieces of information out of the 3 I need, I should take those 2 and not ask for the other 2 again,
Okay.
correct? So that's handy. All right, so when I say enable slots, it changed my dialogue here a little bit. And we'll let it load, but this is going to be where I capture my slots.
So I can say, I'd like to make a reservation at 6 p.m. for 3 people. That's all the slots.
That's everything that I needed, so I don't need to go back and ask you those questions again.
But I might say, is anything available at 6?
Then I have 1 piece of information, and I'll ask you the rest.
Okay, it would come back and say how many people.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So we'll see that right now. So the first thing, this goes by order from top to bottom. So the first thing I may want to know is what time.
time.
Let's say that's more important. So did I do time? Yes. So I want to get time. It'll be stored as $time.
Mhm.
If I don't enter a prompt, this is really clever. If I do not enter a prompt and if not present, it keeps it optional. So if you give me that information as a user, I'll keep it. I may or may not use it later,
Okay.
but I will not ask for it.
Cool.
So in this
Yeah,
case,
that's the worst thing. That sometimes you're talking to a chatbot and you told it what time, and now it's asking me again.
right. So that's one case, but in this case, you told it what time, but it wasn't supposed to ask you for the time anyways, but it can use it later.
Okay.
So it's optional, but it got it if
Got
it
it.
needs it. So what time, let's say what time like to come in. So this is the first question that gets asked. Let's put in the rest of our slots real quick. So I'll say, let's say next thing I want to know is how many people in your party, for how many, let's say for how many people. Keep it simple. And then we'll add, let's add one more. What would you like to have? That's my dish.
Okay.
And just to demonstrate the optional, I'm going to add location and leave it empty. So let's say they say, I want to book a table, I'm coming from San Jose. Now the bot knows that. It may say, hey, there's a location nearby if you want to go there. And it's actually, you know what? It doesn't have a lot of people in it.
Okay.
Right?
That's
So that's
cool. So if it's a
information.
chain, maybe it routes me to the.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
better
information that I
franchise.
don't need to fulfill this
Yeah.
intent, but it'll help me help you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's try this. So the last thing I need is, if nothing is pre-filled, what do you want to ask first? And since it goes down in order, I'll just take that first question and ask it. So I'm just going to paste that here, and we are done. Let's try it out.
Yeah.
So hit clear, and clear is sort of blank the slate. Let's start again. Maybe store this. Ask them if this is their preferred dish. Maybe store it and send it to them on their birthday.
Okay.
It's kind of creepy, but maybe maybe I can do that. All right. So last thing is once. Wait, how much time do we have?
10 minutes.
Perfect. We can show a little bit more. This is awesome. So generally what you want to do is you either want to, once you gather information like this, you either want to confirm it or at least show it back to the user and acknowledge that, hey, we got you 5 spots at 5 p.m. or how much ever range,
Okay.
right? So that's generally a good idea. So let's try that. So the way to do that is to use Spring Expression Language. So that's coming out of the Java world. And how that works here, now this is a little bit of programming involved, but what we'll say is, great, we have,
So now we're just confirming back to the user
yes,
what they just told us.
what they just told us. So we want to give them a way to a way to change what they've said, right? They may have changed their mind, or maybe we didn't capture it correctly.
Okay.
So we want to give them a chance to correct us. So we have reserved, and first thing I do is just type it in English. So we have reserved a table for 4 at 3 p.m. We make amazing rice.
Okay.
Let's say we want to say that to the user.
Okay.
And now, like I was saying, there's you can add variables in here and refer back to your context variables using Spring Expression Language.
Okay.
And the way to do that is you would say, instead of 4, we want to get the number of people. And this is sort of how you do it. So you go open angle bracket, question mark, close angle bracket. This is just telling what's in the system, that whatever's inside that thing is actually an expression.
Okay.
It's a variable. And so we can say $, and let's see what we just named it number. So let's grab that. Okay, at 3 p.m. Instead of that, let's call it, I think it's probably just time. And then we make amazing, we said dish. So let's say, all right, you ready to test it out?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. Okay, and this time we'll give it more than one piece of information at a
Okay.
time, so make it faster. So I want to eat. Please book table for 3 at 5 p.m. Now you see, I gave it 2 pieces of information. I gave it a number and a time,
Okay.
but I still yet to give it the dish.
Okay.
So it's prompting me for that. And now I can say rice, and it's filled in those variables in the response, right? So this is pretty cool. The other thing I want to quickly show, if you need to see Watson Assistant docs, if you need to see what else you can do, what other functions are available, we have some wonderful documentation on Watson Assistant. And if you go on the left-hand side, there is a link for expression language methods. And you can go in there and see what all you can do with different kinds of objects.
Okay.
So an improvement to this may be that I want to, instead of saying, let me grab this guy here.
You can expand the time.
Exactly.
Right.
I can make it a little bit more user friendly. So I can say, instead of this guy, I want to say time dot reformatted in this fashion.
Right.
So the other thing.
So is there like a Unix epoch milliseconds type?
There's actually
kidding.
tons of expression
All
methods you can use here. You can compare dates. You can see. You can get today's date.
Okay.
You can get.
Oh, you mentioned 2 hours from now.
I could do
Yeah.
2 hours from now. I would do that. So going back here real quick, a quick testing tip is if I don't want to refill re-enter all the variables, I can actually just say I want to eat, and since it already has all of the variables already there, it'll just output the result. So let's
Okay.
do that. So
Even though we've changed the responses.
yes. So if I say I want to eat, now it's got this time looks a little bit better
Than
than
1700.
1700
Yeah.
00, right? So you can do the same thing with dates as well. So the other thing, let's say there's a way, let's say I'm testing this, I've deployed this, and there's a way to ask for a table that I haven't taught Watson Assistant yet,
Okay.
right? So for example, I think we have quite a few cases, but let's
try
say
to trick it here. We're going to try to trick it.
I want to drive to eat today. I'm not sure if
That's going to work.
I'm not sure if that's going to work. Okay, it understands that. It's kind of hard to fool it.
All right.
The other thing what you can do is inside the nodes, you can look at the confidence levels of all the intents coming back, and you can make a decision accordingly.
Right.
So
grab me a table at 3.
Man, it's smart. It is smart. It understands that to be booking a table.
Okay.
But let's say if I enter something that it didn't know about, I can use this arrow. Let's say I had multiple intents and it
Right.
didn't guess it correctly. I can use it to say, hey, by the way, this
Add
kind of
this.
sentence, add it to the examples to that specific intent.
Okay.
And it's very smart about that. You'll see the little training sign, and the next time it'll learn from that example.
Okay. So then retrains based on the additional Q&A.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah.
In addition, if you do want to dive in and you want to, everything that I've done here in the UI can be done using the API. So if you are a developer and you want to integrate this into whatever system you want, you can use the API. You can build a conversation using the API, or you can build it here and then converse with the dialogue using the API.
So the hard way, the easy way, and then preference, and actually in between. So tell me how to export this. Can I actually?
Perfect. Yeah. So let's say you have built an awesome bot that nobody
Right.
else has, and you want to share it with the world,
Okay.
or you want to share it with other developers. So to do that, you would go back to the skill level, and it's as easy as downloading this JSON file, and then you can host that on GitHub. You can email it to other people, and they can then, when I say create new, they can import that JSON
Gotcha.
file, and they'll get exactly what you have.
Now I noticed there was an API there. Could I actually now build an app on my mobile phone in the browser? And can I actually now call the chatbot
Exactly.
service?
So that's perfect. You can, if I go back to
I saw the API key maybe.
right. So oops, let me go back.
So it's a RESTful interface.
Absolutely is. So that's what I'm going to show you
Nice.
is right here. Not only is it RESTful, but we have SDKs for different languages. So if you're writing, if you're writing a Java app or if you're writing a Node.js app, then you can use this SDK to do multiple things. So you can talk to the bot, you can retrain it on the fly. You can, right here, if you see, this one is giving examples, new examples, giving counterexamples, creating new entities, adding synonyms, the show recommendation thing we use. You can give it synonyms yourself. So yeah, everything that I've done can be done using the API. Once you have a skill built, then the next step would be to add it to, let me close this, to add it to an assistant. So you would go to the assistant tab. So here's our book reservation. I would go to assistant, create a new one. I call it book assistant. And this is where, I don't know if you saw, there was a little check mark that said enable preview link.
Okay.
And that's really handy. I'll show you real quick. So in this case, my assistant, I want to add that skill I just built into this assistant. And here's my preview link. So let's open that in a new window. And
Oh,
this
how
is
clever, yeah.
This is the bot. This is another way to test it with your end users, or to share it with other
So I
people.
don't have to go out to Telegraph or build my own set of frameworks. It's all that this right here is.
This is, yes, and they don't have to go log into Watson Assistant, IBM Cloud, in order to do the try it panel. So this was recently added. So in here I can again say, I want to book a table, and it's exactly the same dialogue. So that's the cool thing about Watson Assistant, is that the conversation or the dialogue is kept separate from the platform you're distributing it on.
So if I was a business user, domain knowledge about this, I don't need to be a developer necessarily to build a chatbot.
The only coding we did so far was the angle brackets from with the Spring Expression language.
Okay.
And you can source that out.
Very cool. That was amazing.
Lovely to be
Yeah,
here. Thank you
sure.
for hosting me. Until next time.
Until next time.
Thank you.